What's up, team? Dr. Dustin Jones here. You're listening to the Fitness for 55 Plus podcast brought to you by Stronger Life. We are going to be talking about I have osteoporosis, now what? What are the top things to know and to do if you get a diagnosis of osteoporosis or osteopenia, or you're concerned about your bone health, as we all age, which is a big concern for many, and we all should be thinking about the health of our bones and doing things we can to build the health of our bones. So we're live streaming right now into the Fitness for 55 Plus Facebook group. This is where we gather questions. If you are a viewer or listener, be sure to hop in that Facebook group. Just search Fitness for 55 Plus. And you will see us request to join. And we'd love to give you helpful information, address any of your questions. So this one today, this one's near and dear to my heart because this is a question that we will get a lot of at Stronger Life. We'll have folks that will get an osteoporosis diagnosis and not necessarily know what to do with that or what it actually means. So I think the first thing that's really helpful to do is to get some more clarification on the diagnosis that you received, all right? The diagnosis of osteoporosis, for context, is typically given based on a reading of a DEXA scan. So this DEXA scan, you just lay down, it scans you, and it looks at the density of the minerals in your bone, or your bone mineral density. And it spits out a report, and that report has a bunch of numbers on it. And it's looking at bone mineral density most commonly in your lumbar spine and your hip or the neck of the femur on both sides. And it will compare your bone mineral density to someone of the same sex and race, but younger. So they're using the younger folks as quote unquote normal, and they're comparing your bone mineral density to that group of people. And the result is going to be that T-score. And so if your number is from 0 to -1, then you are considered to have normal, healthy bones. If you're in that -1 to -2.5 range, that is considered to be osteopenia. And then if you're -2.5 or below, then that is osteoporosis. And so when you look at that scan, there's a bunch of numbers, but I want you to pay attention to where you may be quote unquote osteoporotic, where you may be below that -2.5. Because what we can often see is that folks may only be below that -2.5 in maybe one area of their body versus their whole body. Usually when you get the diagnosis of osteoporosis, you think all of your bones are brittle and are going to break at any moment, right? But it may be a particular area that is more of a concern. And that's helpful information because you can use that information to do targeted activities to build bone in that particular area or targeted exercises. All right, so get clarification is really, really important. And that's the first thing that I would do, is to understand your diagnosis and what it actually means for you. I've looked at a lot of DEXA scans here at Stronger Life, and folks, will have that diagnosis of osteoporosis, but they only may actually have that low bone mineral density maybe in their right hip, for example. Their lumbar spine may be osteopenic, which is better. And their other hip, their left hip, may be osteopenic as well. And so what it tells that person is that, okay, my right hip has less bone mineral density, so I may want to do some exercises that really load up the hips so my bones can respond and get stronger, right? So this is really, really helpful information. So understanding your diagnosis is the first thing. The second thing is what lifestyle or what can you do in your control to influence your bone mineral density? And there's a lot of things that we can do with lifestyle and exercise, choices that we make that can make our bones stronger. The first one is nutrition. And if you've been to a physician, you've gotten the diagnosis, they're more than likely going to recommend potentially some type of supplementation. What you'll commonly see is that folks will start to take calcium supplementation, and usually the recommended amount is around 1,200 per day. I believe, I'm going to double check that, milligrams. I want to make sure I get get that correct. So 1,200 milligrams per day is the typical recommendation. You also see some vitamin D supplementation. Recommended daily amount is around 400 IUs at a minimum, but many folks are taking way more than that, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. But 400 at a minimum per day. And then protein. Protein is starting to be viewed as a variable that can influence bone mineral density. And so the kind of blanket recommendations you'll see are 1 to 1.2 grams per kilogram of body weight per day. So you take your weight in poundage, convert it to kilograms, and then you multiply that number by 1 or 1.2, and that's that recommended amount of protein intake. If you've heard us talk about protein intake here at Stronger Life, especially if you're a Stronger Life member, if you're regularly exercising at a higher intensity and you have higher activity levels, we are recommending to folks that you do 1 gram per pound of body weight, which is a lot of protein, but that's going to give you the building blocks to build your muscles, but then also your bones as well. So calcium, vitamin D, and then protein are really important from the nutrition side. And then the second thing, and maybe one of the most important things, is the exercise. Exercise influences your bones just like it influences your muscles and everything about your body. Is that when we experience the stress of handling heavy weight or our own body weight, for example, that stress, that mechanical stress, stresses the bone, and the bone responds by getting stronger in that particular area. And so the evidence is really pointing towards resistance training or strength training is really, really helpful, but then also body weight impact exercises. Let's talk about the first one, strength training. So this is where you're lifting something relatively heavy. Here at Stronger Life, we're lifting heavy dumbbells, heavy slam balls. We've got our stability trainers filled with water that also has the balance component. These types of things are loading your muscles, but then loading your bones as well. That's going to help them get stronger. That's why a lot of Stronger Life members have actually transitioned from osteoporosis to osteopenia, or gone from osteopenia to normal. They've improved in terms of their bone mineral density. That's a big one. If you're not doing that, that's a great place to start. The second one, and often the most neglected, particularly in folks over 55, is the impact exercises. So think stomping, step-ups, stepping down, trying to make a loud noise when you step down from a step, for example. Variations of jumping or hopping, maybe coming up onto your toes and slamming down onto your heels. We're going to release a video, a very short video that'll give you some tangible examples of this. But just think activities where you are feeling kind of a jarring sensation through your bones. Those impact type exercises stimulate bone growth. We don't want to neglect the arms either. So when we're on our hands and knees, when we're doing push-ups, when we're doing those types of things, that also builds bone mineral density through your arms. So resistance training, heavy resistance training is important, but then also that impact training where you're feeling the impact through your body that is telling your bones, hey, you need to get stronger, and they will do that. All right? That's a lot. I want to recap this. All right? So first thing, if you get that diagnosis, understand it. Where do you have that osteoporosis? It may be more pronounced in one area versus another. This is really helpful information that can influence what exercise you may really want to do to target that area. Number two, what can you control? You can control what you eat. You can control how you move or exercise. From the nutrition standpoint, you want to think about calcium, about 1,200 milligrams per day, vitamin D, a minimum of 400 IUs per day, and then protein. At Stronger Life, if you're exercising with us, it's going to be 1 gram per pound of body weight. That's a lot. But if you're not exercising regularly, but you may be relatively active, that 1 to 1.2 grams per kilogram of body weight is what you'll want to follow. All right, then the exercise piece. Lift heavy things, progressive resistance training, and then impact-based exercise. These are things that we weave into almost every single Stronger Life class. That is why our members are seeing improvements in their bone mineral density over time. All right, this doesn't have to be a death sentence. There's a lot that you can do about this. I know it can be a very frightening diagnosis, but there's a lot that you can control. All right. Do those things and you'll be surprised at what you'll see on your next DEXA scan. If you have any questions about osteoporosis, osteopenia, bone mineral density, feel free to drop them inside the Fitness for 55 Plus Facebook group, and we'd love to address any of your questions. Appreciate y'all. Have a lovely rest of your day.